Hello and welcome to Love Anything Art. We'll begin with some of this beige clay, or you can pick whatever neutral color that you have. I just really liked the way this one looked. I'll just go ahead and cut off a section and then roll it out. We want it to be kind of thick, but not too thick, but definitely not thin. I'll show you the thickness once I get it rolled out here in just a moment. So you want it about that thick. And then I'm taking a random scrap piece of paper and I'll just gently fold it in half there, and I will place my clay on top of it, and this will keep all of my messies from getting all over the place when I use my alcohol inks in a moment. And I did go stencil crazy online and bought probably about 100 stencils, so lots of stencils in your future. I really like this one. It has a little heart with like a little, I guess, kind of leafy pattern there in the middle. I'll just place that on my clay. Then just give it a nice gentle roll, making sure that the stencil goes down into the clay so that the clay rises up above the stencil. And my alcohol inks, I did go crazy online with these too. And I'll actually leave links to those products I bought in the description box below. You do want to make sure that you shake up your alcohol inks pretty good. And I've just picked out some pretty fall colors. I've picked out a red, a yellow, a green, and a brown. And I'm going to use this piece of tissue to soak up all of my messies on my fingers in between each of my alcohol ink colors. Now I'm just placing it a little bit on my fingers, on my gloved hands. I'll just gently start tapping the color randomly on my clay. Adding my browns and my yellows, my green, and then of course my bright, beautiful red at the finish. I think that added a lot to the piece. Once it's pretty much dry, you do want it to be slightly damp. You don't want your stencil to dry or stick to your clay when you're pulling it up, or to remove any of that alcohol ink when you're trying to pull up your stencil. And I have such a tiny piece and I went all the way to the edge with my stencil, so I'm having a difficult time peeling it up. I'm just going from one end to the other, just gently pulling up until I get that stencil removed. And I would just recommend putting this in some water so that you can get as much of that alcohol ink off as possible. This was from a previous project I did, and a little bit of the alcohol ink did stain, but that is okay. Still good to use again. And these are some circle cutters. You can use whatever shapes you would like to cut out beautiful shapes. I'll just place it on there and find the best pattern that I want to fit into my circle cutter. And I will cut out 2 of these circles, one for each earring. And then save this. You can use this for future projects. For the center, using a small circle cutter, I'm just eyeballing to find the exact middle. Once I feel that it is in the middle, I'll just give it a nice gentle push down. And then for the second one, since I've already measured the first and we want them to be equal, you can just peel it up from your surface, place that directly on your clay, removing that circle piece. And this way you can put your circle cutter in the middle and give it a nice little firm push down. You don't have to go all the way through at this point. Just to get the shape where you want it to be in the clay. And that way you don't have to measure it out again. And then just cut out your circle in the middle. I'll use my fingers to gently smooth out around the rim on the inner and outer part of the earring. And do this for the top and the bottom. You don't have to worry about the bottom part. You can actually sand that once we've baked it. Just the top part with that alcohol ink. You don't really want to mess that up with sandpaper. I'm making a small yellow rose, so I've rolled out some yellow clay and I've sliced off 5 pieces. With each of those, I will roll it into a ball. And then just tap it between my fingers to flatten it. And I will use a metal stick pin and roll that flat piece of clay around the top. And then I will just start placing on my flower petals. Like I said, it's just going to be a very tiny flower. Nothing too fancy or large, just a nice little pop of color. And that is actually where it will set on my piece. And to do this, I just took a piece of my metal stick pin, made a loop on one end, and you just want it long enough to go through your circle piece and just into the tip of the flower on the back side. So I do need to cut it down just a little bit, so I'm going to measure it out and then put my cutter where I need to chop off. Then you can just cut off the excess. And I found it easiest to get the metal finding down into the clay by putting my clay on my tissue blade. Making sure it's firmly on there, and then taking that metal stick pin and start pressing it down into the clay. This way it won't poke out the back or the top, and I will use my fingers and the tissue blade to guide it down the center. And just gently press it in there until it pops out the bottom. And it kind of made a little bit of an indentation at the top, but I will fix that. Just need to remove the metal finding. And then just use my fingernail and my finger to smooth everything out. And that bottom has a little piece of clay that I'm going to need to get out of there. Just push your metal finding through there again, and you can remove that excess clay. And then just make it flush with the bottom of that circle so that it's not poking out yet. And then you can take your flower and put it down there directly below where that hole is. And I'm just going to use another stick pin here to move it into place so I have it directly in the center, sitting the way I want, so that it goes down into the flower and connects. And use the back of your fingernail here to hold that flower into place while you push the stick pin down into it. And there you go. And the same with my little top circle. I'll just put a stick pin with a loop on the end into one of the sides. And I'm going gonna go ahead and test all this idea. I was thinking about it as I was going along making my piece. Thought it would be really pretty to add a little bit of powders so that it has kind of a metallic shine. I'll just put it in all the spaces that the alcohol ink is not there. And it appears to not really stick too much to the alcohol ink areas because it's not fresh clay. So that works out too. That way I don't mess up my beautiful alcohol ink pattern. And then after I tested that, I'm going to go ahead and put it on my actual piece, since I know it's going to look pretty good. I actually tried a different color too. I had like a darker color, but I didn't really like it. So I decided to go with this lighter color. I just felt like it went with everything a lot better than the dark auburn color I was going to put on there. And that is them all nice and shiny. Put that in the oven to bake. Once baked, remove all of your stick pins before giving it a nice gentle sanding. Like I said, I will just sand the back and rims of these pieces to make sure they're nice and smooth and to get rid of any hairs or fibers that might have stuck to it. So just sand the backs, and then of course the sides, the bottom, and not doing anything to the top. I'm going to connect my two findings together, the one that'll go into the bottom part of my clay and the one that'll go into the top. And for now, I'm just going to glue it in to the bottom part with the flower. And I'll do this before resining my pieces. I will resin them separate and then assemble them. When resining, I did find it easiest to do one side at a time so that I can get a nice domed shape with the resin on each side. So just put a generous amount on both pieces. To hold it in place while you are resining your pieces, you can use just a little toothpick while using your paintbrush and moving around the resin into all the spaces. And once that is cured, flip it over and do the same to the back side. And then you can do the outside rim and the inner rim. And the same with your top piece, you can do it around the outside rim. And then also on your rose or flower, or if you put that on there, being sure to get the front and the back. And then you can glue in the eye hook to the top part of your earring. And then glue on your earring hook to the back. Let those dry. And these are them. I'm actually in love with these. They came out so pretty. I love them. I love the colors. Fall's coming, so I need to wear these. I hope you enjoyed this video, found it useful, and like I said, if you are interested in those stencils, I will leave a link in the description box below. Or you can go to Amazon and check out stencils for yourself there too. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!